everybody. This is the Drop the Beat podcast. My name is Charles Laurita.
And I'm Will Sarver.
And we want to thank you guys so much, as we do every single time, for watching us and listening to us beat off. This is our 4th episode that we've actually been filming.
Right.
And I really feel like the visual helps a lot of people while we're beating off, and they're probably beating off at home separately.
I think with it being visual, there's a stronger connection, I think.
I like to try this every once in a while when we're talking. I'll kind of turn and hold eye contact with my specific camera. I feel like the eye contact it's jarring, but when you get used to it, it's like, it's pretty good.
Right.
You know?
And you don't want to be rude either.
No. I feel like I owe it to you guys. I think we've been doing very, very well with this podcast. I know I've been having a lot of fun.
It's a great time. At least I'm just saying that to your face to make you feel better.
No, that's understandable.
Yeah.
It's been a hot second. Honestly, it's definitely been a hot second. How have you been? Have you been with everything going on?
The usual. I mean, one day I'll say something exciting, but
that's okay. Me too.
With being, quarantined, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You're doing what you do's.
That's does what I did. Did?
Yes.
Doing.
Both. Everything.
Oh, my God.
How are you?
What tense it's in. I'm fine. I am what I am.
Hair's on fleek.
Hair was good today. Today was a good hair day. Fresh shaved, so I don't look like a homeless person.
Brows did.
Or a hipster. What's the difference, honestly?
Same.
The iPhone is the difference between the hipster and the homeless person. Sorry, everyone, if you're all leaving this video. Please don't. We need you.
We need you. Please.
But thank you, though. We are very grateful for everyone who's continuously watching and listening to us. We like doing this little thing. It's kind of nice. It's just turned more into a conversational piece, which I think is cool. But we do have kind of a question-y thing this week. But before we get into that, we got some tea.
We do have some tea.
We fresh brewed this bitch.
Yep.
We got some lemon zinger, as they say.
Yes. And who? What's the manufacturer?
What was it? Was it Twinings? What is it?
Maybe.
Bigelow? I don't remember.
I don't know. Well, any of those that he just mentioned,
sure.
Hit us up. We'd love a sponsor here.
I would say, give me a break at home. We didn't have much time. They're K-Cups. Don't judge me too much. They're not the normal tea bag kind of thing. I didn't tea bag our normal stuff.
Either way, we just got paid for you, from you mentioning
That's
that.
cool.
So
give me a clinky.
Great. Yep.
Thank you.
It's money in the bank.
And let's get a big gross sip right
Show
in the microphone.
what you drank. I think that's how it goes.
Oh my God, the zing.
Now,
whoa.
I don't know about you, but I'm getting tea up front, and then towards the back end of that, I'm getting more tea. I don't know what you're getting.
I got, that was like 90% zinger and like 10% lemon.
All right,
so
perfect.
The zinger really gets you.
It does. We'll wait till tomorrow.
It's going to keep you regular.
Yeah.
It's great. It's really good. I don't know what the zinger part is. It's the lemon, and the zinger part is prunes. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But baby, it's going to make you shit.
Woo! Get the wipes ready.
I have my Haunted Mansion mug today, and I'm thankful that you're using the Freddy Krueger sweater mug, which from one
Christmas
side, it
mug.
does look like Christmas, which is nice. And
Yeah.
it's probably the most Christmassy thing I own. But it says Nightmare on Elm Street on the other side. You got these fleek-ass coasters we got, too. We got all sorts of good stuff.
I know. It's all jazzed up
down here in the Rat Cave. And the bell. That's my favorite thing. This is starting to turn into Pee-wee's Playhouse. I'm very thankful for that.
Slowly getting to that.
Good. Very good.
Well, thanks for listeking.
Yeah, that was a good one
it.
this week. Yeah. And I'm going to go to hell. I don't know.
Yeah. Drink more tea.
Yeah, drink more tea. It's good for your kidneys.
Drink more Ovaltine.
We're gonna get kidney stones, honestly, but we do kind of have an amalgamation of questions into one big question that we've gotten continuously, and a lot of people know I'm very big into film. You're very big into film.
I do enjoy it.
We do like movies and shows and visual media and the like, and a lot of people always ask about things with music in film, whether it be score or films that are about music and have musicians in them, like biopics and things like that, or like how music is used in a specific film, or necessarily like a soundtrack too, because that's a use of music in a different way.
Yeah.
And I think that's always very, very cool. So everyone always just asks me a ton of opinions. So I was like, let's just kind of discuss this today, because not a lot of people ever break it down like that. And there are a lot of different things you can kind of do, like authenticity of people playing in films. Obviously, people who score them, like big composers. There are a couple huge ones.
Oh, yeah.
And then just overall use of music or lack of music, what that kind of does. And I think that's very important.
There's a lot of topics
Yeah.
that you can hit there.
I say I got this lemon zinger in my system. I'm just ready to go.
You're zinged up.
I'm fucking zinging right now.
Zing.
A zang?
Zang.
I had zang. That's past tense?
Right.
I'm zinging right now.
But you zang.
I had zang yesterday.
You're right.
Wow.
Is your English lesson for the day.
Religious experience right there. But when I think of films with score, if we're kind of jumping off into that topic, there's always like you have the big trifecta of composers. You have John Williams.
Oh, yeah.
If you ever heard of him. Which coincidentally, I'm wearing this Empire Strikes Back shirt today.
That's
I did
funny.
not plan that because
It looks planned.
It's
planned.
Stop it! No, fuck off. We didn't plan it. I didn't know we were going to do this topic. But then again, it's like I have a 90% chance of putting on a Star Wars shirt anyway.
That's accurate.
That is
yeah,
fairly
there's
accurate.
a good chance. Yeah.
You have your John Williams, you have your Hans Zimmer, you have your Alan Silvestri, and those guys are like the big three. And I'm sure I know there are hundreds and dozens and thousands of others. But score is very interesting in a film because it does a lot of things. And I always say it's, the use of music to tell a story or the lack of music to tell a story, which I think is equally as important. John Williams is super cool because you always hear these big kind of just like waving scores, and like his themes that he's created over the years are so just household themes at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, you have Star Wars. You have things like Jaws. You have Harry Potter. You have Indiana Jones, which is one of my favorites. E.T.
Jurassic Park.
Right? Park. Yeah, Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Pal. And that's just on the small end because he's done. Oh my God! How much?
Way too many.
Which is insane, and he's still doing it, which I think is great too. And he's cool because he has these big flowing scores, which I think are great, and they always had a sense of like whimsical wonder, which was kind of cool because most of the things he scored, or a lot of the famous things, were fantasy films. Superman being one of them, which was a very, very big one. And it's that triumphant feel like that. And I think a nice counterpoint to him, who I very, very much like, is Hans Zimmer, who I know you are super hip to.
Oh, for sure.
So when you think of Hans Zimmer, what film immediately comes
I think
to
you
mind?
know what I'm going to say.
I have one that actually comes to mind before that one.
Okay.
But what do you got?
Dark Knight.
Of course.
That's
very, very, very cool.
I mean, besides like Heath Ledger's performance in that, I think the scoring for that kind of makes it a lot of it for me is that why that series is so good.
I was going to say,
the scoring.
Imagine that film or those three Christopher Nolan Dark Knight films with no score. It's he has the epicness where John Williams has the wonder and amazement of Superman flying, or E.T. on the bike flying, or Harry Potter flying. Everyone's fucking flying in those movies.
Yeah, it's starting that up.
No, which is cool though, because I'd love any of it because he and Spielberg are like best buds. But Hans Zimmer is tense, and it's always very heavily percussive.
He loves it. Yeah,
where John Williams is very much the theme and motifs like that, his is almost telling a story. When you get into motifs, like especially the Dark Knight specifically, the Joker always has a motif that plays when he is, entering the scene or something, or something's going to happen with him. And for those of y'all not knowing what a motif is, it's usually like a little musical phrase or something, and they assign it to like a character.
a snippet.
Yeah, like a little snippet or something like that. Obviously, Jaws is a very famous one because when the shark is coming.
It's literally 2 notes.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It's crazy.
That's what it is. Now, for me, for Hans Zimmer, I think of The Lion King because he did the Lion King score, which is great. Now, you had like Elton John and Tim Rice doing the actual music and lyrical songs.
Yes.
But he did the scoring part, and those parts are like fucking intense because it was always the two that stick out to me. It's where there's Mufasa gets dicked over by Scar, and there's the wildebeest stampede, and that's like very like hectic tritone music and sounds like tense. and they're at the end where Simba comes back and he's big boy Simba Senior, and he comes to fight Scar and everything's on fire and it's like super just like, oh my God, like this is so intense. And in that case, I'm always a less is more person, but like that, setting the scene and setting the mood, it's like
it needed it.
Good Lord, it's perfect. It's so like I couldn't imagine anyone else doing that kind of a thing.
I think that's his strong suit, is he knows where to place things.
That's half the battle, and that's very important. And especially him working with Christopher Nolan, where Nolan always has this giant vision of everything. He leaves the music completely up to Hans Zimmer, which I think is amazing.
Smart move.
It's a very smart move.
Yeah.
One of my favorite Nolan movies is, oh my God, like the score in all of his films is just isn't intense.
Yeah,
I love Interstellar because that was almost all done on a pipe organ. And that's really cool because Christopher Nolan was like, do something different.
Yeah.
For this movie, because it's out there. It's traveling through a black hole. It's space-time continuum, all that. And he did pipe organ music, and I'm like, that's a really cool approach.
It really is. Unusual.
I love that. So I was going to say I love Hans Zimmer for being that very just intense. Like he can, like as you said, he can write emotion. I mean, any kind of music has emotion to it. That's what makes it drive and move. But his, it's always like pressing and tense and like a holy shit, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Which I think is very, very cool.
He takes you on this huge journey throughout it. It's
amazing. One of his big pieces of scoring that I love is Inception. Not just the plum, that's so iconic at this point. But I love the whole idea of they have the song, the old Italian song that they have is the kick when they're waking up from dreams. And then the score he did throughout the movie is just slower versions of that. And I never knew that until recently. And I'm like, he's just a very, very smart guy.
He really is.
He's like the Nolan of scoring like that.
Yeah.
He actually had a master class not that long ago online. I missed it, and I should have watched it because it was probably phenomenal.
I saw like the trailer for it.
That dude, man. Just good Lord.
But in that trailer, he brought up a really good point of how a lot of times when he scores, just the way you change a couple things, you can get question and you can get answer.
That's a really interesting point.
Which is really, it's crazy to think about, but he does that a lot.
And I've noticed that more. Over quarantine, I rewatched the entire trilogy of The Dark Knight. And I love those films. Those films are awesome.
Yeah.
That changed the game for everything. But it was really cool because when you saying that question and answer kind of thing, or question, asking question, or whichever, a lot of the earlier scenes in the Batman films very much have that question kind of sound or motif because he's young and he's learning. And then as it goes on, he ages and gains experience. Now it's like, okay, I'm Batman.
Exactly.
I'm Batman.
Yeah.
Sorry, I said it wrong. You have to say it specifically.
And it adds suspense.
Oh my God, yes.
Especially, I mean, for all the music nerds, it's a lot of times he wouldn't resolve it.
Yeah.
So you get that unsettling feeling because you're waiting
that's
for
all the Joker stuff in that, which is
every time
is great.
Just leaves you on that little cliffhanger.
Yeah, to not resolve it. It's either like the biggest theory dick move you could do, or
it works.
if you use it
Yeah.
to help you. That's a huge deal. And now it's saying Batman and me thinking of Batman. Another completely different side of scoring is I like Danny Elfman a lot, and a lot of people give him shit because he doesn't read music. He's never read.
Dare he not read?
I know, what a butthole. Because so many people are always like, well, if you don't read, you are not a musician. And it's like, I read and I teach reading and this and that, but I will never, ever agree with that statement.
There's a lot of pro guys that can't read a thing of music.
There are a lot of pros who only read music and you take it away from them and they have no idea what to do.
Someone could argue that that's more dangerous.
Not that we're going to have a shit session here, but I had an ex-girlfriend who was a fabulous piano player, and if you took the music away from her, she had no idea what to do. She was helpless. It's like taking away your water wings and now you sing.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about that in another podcast, but that's, you can't always have music in front of you.
Yeah.
There may be a situation where that's not available.
Yeah.
Well, then what do you do?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Got to sink or swim.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but I love Danny Elfman because he did the scores and themes. Batman's theme he did for the Michael Keaton Batman films.
Okay.
Which, obviously, when anyone thinks Danny Elfman, they think it's Tim Burton immediately.
Right.
'Cause he's done almost everything he's worked on, which is great. And he's cool because he came from the band Oingo Boingo, which was a very weird, very out there rock band. But as far as approach to scoring, it's a very different kind of take on things, because where Tim Burton is the goth director, he's the goth kind of composer, where all of his stuff is very melancholy, or it's that very kind of just macabre sound. Like I think of Beetlejuice, and that's an awesome score. Or all the stuff is a fum 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 fum. It's all that kind of like tuba shit, which is great. I mean, I love it though. And you have to do your shoulders.
Yeah,
and do
you
that,
have
or it's
to.
completely wrong.
Tuba,
of course. But he's cool too because I mean he crosses into that musical kind of realm. His scoring is very interesting because he does a lot of modulations, which is progression, and I always thought that was very, very cool. Or some people would look at that as progression. I've always liked that. I don't know. A lot of people are very indifferent on him. I think he's been doing it a long time.
he's obviously successful in some manner.
He scores a lot of stuff people didn't even know he scores, because he can score things in like the manner of a normal person.
Yeah.
One of my favorites is he did the original Spider-Man. Like that was his score, and that's a really cool score, like that kind of Spider-Man theme. And he did those 3 Tobey Maguire ones, and no one ever remembers that. And I wish more people did, because it's like a really like just very like graceful sounding score, where it's like that's great. Because if you look, I always feel if someone, me not being a composer at all, understanding the art and the act of it, because it's very objective, subjective. But I always feel, if someone can see that character and they think of that music and it encompasses it, you did a good job.
Right.
And I always think that's
That's a good point.
Yeah, like I just rewatched the original 3 Indiana Jones films. I love those. Those movies are awesome.
Great.
Harrison Ford's the coolest dude. And when you hear that music, like it's you have both sides of it. You see Indiana Jones and you think of that song, and you hear that song, and undoubtedly, like, this is him in song form.
Yes.
That's how I always kind of pictured it.
That was John Williams again.
That was
right?
John Williams, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Which is great. Yeah,
When in doubt.
Him and Spielberg are like Danny Elfman and Tim Burton.
Yeah,
They're best buds.
Great duo there.
But yeah, I mean, I like that you brought up Jurassic Park, because that kind of brings it into another realm of it. It's the lack of music, and that's a very important kind of choice.
Equally as effective.
Yeah, and
which makes no sense. But it does.
Isn't that bizarre?
Yeah.
Where it's I mean, there's the old quote, I forget, his name escapes me, whoever said it, but it's it's the notes you don't play matter just as much as the notes you do.
Right, yeah.
That's probably Coltrane or Charlie Parker or somebody, or Duke, I don't know.
Somebody huge.
Someone was smart
Yeah.
and more successful than myself. Said that, and I always thought about that, and that really changed how I looked at films with score or music. I was, I always used to be like, oh, there's no music playing here. What's the point of it? And I was like, oh, that was a creative choice.
Yep.
So I always think of Alfred Hitchcock, because he did a lot of things where he would have the theme and the score would be over the opening credits, and that was it. And he was like, the lack of music is the music, where you hear just tension and you hear sound effect and Foley, and that's what makes it intense. It's the fact that the music is not there and it leaves you on edge. And I was like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah,
and it's
right.
super unsettling, because now it's like you're expecting like a theme to come in, and it's
not there.
No.
And that's why it was so effective in Jurassic Park. Creates more tension.
That's what's so cool with that film, because you obviously get the big theme when there's a famous scene where they taking the glasses off and getting up in the van, and you see the big sauropods, and it's like the big triumphant theme. But then you have the T-Rex in the rain, which is like one of my favorite just pieces of cinema. That is like fucking beautiful. Like,
it's
I
amazing.
tear up when I see that. It's just so good, and to this day it holds up phenomenally. And there's no music in that. It's just rain.
Right.
And mud and screaming and goat noises and dinosaur sounds. And it's like, that's fucking horrifying. I remember seeing that when I was like, that came out when I was 3. I didn't see it in the theaters, but we got it on VHS.
And that was a long scene.
It's super long. Yeah.
With no music.
Yeah. No music. And I think Spielberg wanted something in there, and John Williams was like, "Nah, this
See,
is
that
like,
takes a lot to be like, no,
yeah,
doesn't need anything.
yeah." I mean, John Williams. I mean, what a lot of people don't realize too, he actually does screenwriting work too. Like he is in the game. Like he knows.
Oh, he
the
knows
stuff.
the game, yeah.
But for him to be like, "This is the proper choice," and get paid less because it's like you're not writing, but it's like
Yeah, it says a lot.
because I think he had tried writing things over that as the story goes, and just it didn't fit, and he just said it's not. This is like the crown jewel achievement of this film. It's like you can't fuck this up. Like,
Right.
I don't blame him.
No, right call.
Yeah, I mean the other scene in that is when they're in the kitchen and the velociraptors are going all around, and I love that scene too. And there's no music with that either.
Yeah.
And that's like such a crazy choice because it's like you have dinosaurs in a film, and it's like intense, and it's like you think there's going to be some kind of music, and there's not, and that's
You
what
don't
made
need it.
That made it so much scarier. I remember being a little kid. I was 3 because I was a 3-year-old kid. Everyone was obsessed with dinosaurs. I still am, obviously, because I'm still a 3-year-old kid. But like I remember renting that from the old Blockbuster when I was 3, and watching it. That movie scared the shit out of me. And those scenes specifically, because now when you have music, you're comforted. When you don't, it's like, oh, it's just me.
Right.
It's just me and you. We're dead.
That's it, yeah. And the sounds, like the noises that everybody makes and the sounds that the dinosaurs put, like that is the music.
That's the perfect point. That is the score.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it becomes.
Because those scenes were all dependent on extraneous noise.
Yeah, that's what made it.
Rain, dinosaur walking around, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
If you put music on top of that, it would take it away from that.
It would be so much less intense. Like that
Yeah.
famous scene of the cup of water on the dashboard.
Yeah.
Which I found out how they did that, which is really cool. Steven Spielberg was apparently driving, because they shot that in Hawaii. That part was on a soundstage, but they were shot it in Hawaii, and Spielberg was he was driving somewhere and blasting Earth, Wind, and Fire. And he said the bass was so intense in his car, he had a cup of water and it did that. And he was like, that's really cool. So they had a guitar string held on by an eyelet underneath that cup holder, and they had it attached to somewhere else, and they had it tight, and they would just strum it.
Just strum it.
And that's what made the ripple effect, that perfect kind of ripple.
Brilliant.
And could you imagine if they just had like an orchestral hit over top of that? I feel like it would take away from it completely.
Yeah, it wouldn't have the same effect.
Because at that point, the percussive hit is the big footstep you hear.
Yeah.
And that's like the holy shit moment. And then you have the most perfect reveal ever. And it's just like, that made that. The rain is the ambiance. I mean, essentially, like we always say, it's percussion. You're getting a percussive battery at that point. You're getting the rain.
Everything's a drum.
Everything is a drum. And I love it. And I actually like, that's a really good segue. And
I know.
You're a bastard. And I love it sometimes. This is good because I'm, very big into authenticity of people playing in films. Now we kind of get into the other side away from scoring, but movies that are about music.
Music on music.
Music on music. Not quite a musical per se.
Right.
But now it's a biopic and you're watching people perform. And I like that you said everything is a drum because that was a very famous line. And one of the best parts of Get On Up, which was the James Brown biopic, which actually today is the late Chadwick Boseman's birthday. So good timing on that. That was very, very good. That movie changed me in the best way possible.
Yeah, I mean, how many years ago was that movie?
I want to say 2014.
Yeah, but I remember us talking about it. Like, did you see it? You got to see it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the real deal. I think that's one of the better or best ones that have been done in a very, very long time.
That was something. Like,
yeah,
I remember they made the conscious decision, as they do with a lot of those films, where they're not going to have anyone sing. They're just going to use the vocal track from whoever was doing it. But like, not that it's necessarily the music, but let's just take a second to like respect Mr. Chadwick Boseman in that role, because holy shit,
spot on.
That dude worked his ass off in that. The whole characterization and just the dancing was just incredible. Like that blew me away, because when you think James Brown and dancing, it's like that dude had control of his body like nobody's business. And for him to emulate that like to a T, Nope, I couldn't
That's
do it.
many hours of watching
Oh my
footage.
God, that's all he did. But
yeah,
it's cool because that, you know, when I watch films with bands in them perform, I you know, being the musician, the normal, and as you as well, normal person wouldn't ever think about, oh, what are they playing? Can you look at it? Like, what does it make sense? And that would always bother me in movies. Where it's like, this guy clearly never played before. Now,
yeah, it's the first time holding
If you
it.
have a guy in the background as an extra in a band, why not just hire real people who play? He's not having speaking roles. He's not having any acting roles.
Yeah, I mean,
he's just
why not?
playing something. That always pissed me off. Like, that just bothered me so much. I immediately always think of Jamie Foxx as Ray Charles because he actually learned to play that and sing that.
He's a wonder.
Dude, that guy is ungodly talented, and he needs, like, more recognition and respect because that blew me away.
He's such a rare breed because
he is a Renaissance man, essentially.
he can do everything and really, really well.
Yeah. So I remember when they cast him for that, and I was like, he's a comedian. Why would they have him do this?
He wears so many hats.
Yeah. Yeah, but, dude, that guy can play and sing.
Yeah, unbelievable piano player, ridiculous singer.
Yeah.
But that, I mean, he's got to be like one of the top for people that are actually performing.
Holy shit, yeah.
I mean, he had the voice down, the way he plays.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's the most authentic you could get.
yes.
I'm not sure if anyone else in the film was playing additionally,
Right.
but like for him having a lead role like that, like you can always tell when it's someone else's hands or what have you with that kind of thing. But I think authenticity for representation of musicians, that's an important thing. For God's sake, it's a music or it's a film about someone playing music.
Right.
It's got to be spot on. You can't have a guy faking it. It's
Yeah.
like, come on, because a lot of people seeing it are musicians.
Right.
You know, that's why I really liked, Get On Up took the place of it, but Walk the Line for the longest time was my favorite music biopic with Johnny Cash. And that was cool because the soundtrack of the film came out and everyone who was in the movie sang and played their parts. Like Joaquin Phoenix learned to play. He sang all the stuff. Reese Witherspoon did the same thing. Everyone else played. Like the band you saw in the film was the one that was on the record. And I was like, that's really cool. I like that. Like that's... Yeah, it's not spot on, but also his music's simple enough where you could kind of do that and get away with it.
Yeah.
It's nothing too crazy. I just thought that was really kind of neat.
That's still a classic when I watch it.
That's one of my favorites, dude. I used to watch that on like repeat nonstop because all the time growing up I was like, oh, Johnny Cash is a big dork. Like, he's a big nerd, and then you see that and it's like, oh no, he was a pretty cool dude. Like this dude was kind of a badass. Like I wouldn't fuck with him. I wouldn't fuck with Joaquin Phoenix. I mean, more so. That's what I think of. All things considered,
but yeah, and then more recently we've had a few new ones come out.
We have.
It's getting more popular, maybe.
It's getting more oversaturated.
Yeah.
So my thing with that, and this is more the film aspect than anything. So, Bohemian Rhapsody came out, and everyone was saying this was the greatest thing, and it's a cool film. Rami Malek was fabulous. Like I cannot take that away. That dude was insanely good.
I think that's the highlight of it. His performance.
I believe everyone in that actually did play. Like the guy playing Brian May actually played guitar, or they learned, or they fooled me.
Yeah.
And I think I'm not sure if Rami Malek actually learned to play for the role. I mean, it looked convincing, but then again, it's going by so quick. It's like I don't know if he's really actually playing anything. But
yeah, it's hard to tell.
It was convincing. It wasn't just he didn't have just his hands here and then it cuts to another shot of some guy's hands going nuts. But the thing that kind of I was getting tired of music biopics for a while because they're all essentially the same thing. They all start the same way. It's always them in modern day or their most recent appearance leading up to a really huge gig. So for Bohemian Rhapsody, it was Live Aid.
Yeah.
For Walk the Line, it was one of his final performances. For Get On Up, it was one of James Brown's revival performances. It's that. And then it cuts back to shots of them as a child. And then it goes to them in their performing. And then it's all drugs and it's all that. And it's like they're all the same. They all have
That's a good point.
They all have the same formula.
Right.
And that kind of got to me. I mean, I liked what I wanted to see more of in Bohemian Rhapsody was them in the studio, because I like that stuff.
They did some really neat stuff.
That's kind of cool. And that's always my favorite part of the movie. That's always the most inspiring thing. It's like them in the studio figuring out their shit.
Yeah, doing things that are different.
Yeah.
You know?
I always love that. Like that was all Get On Up, all the James Brown stuff of him in the studio and just talking to his guys like shit, and everyone leaves him, and then he gets a whole new band in.
But I mean, that stuff's important, and that's what makes, you know, the performer.
Yeah.
Or how their success came about, is all those little things in between, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
That's the character.
But that's everything. I mean, James Brown was ruthless with the band.
No,
but they were the best.
It was his name.
You know?
He was the best. It was his name. He couldn't have anyone fuck that up for him.
Right.
Because he's like, you're not going to make me look like an idiot.
100%.
You mess up, you're out of here, dude.
Right.
And I get it. You know, that's how Buddy Rich was in real life. Like, you know, stuff like that's how James Brown was in real life. He was that guy.
Right.
And I totally get that. I do think, though, I mean, obviously I like all of these music biopics, but it is kind of, after a while, the same story, essentially. They all go the same route. It's always the same kind of thing. And Rocketman was a big switch for me for that, because that crossed a weird line. It was, you have a music biopic to a degree, and then it's a musical. And it was this surrealist kind of, I mean, Elton John like helped write it, you know. So it's like, it's a very surrealist kind of thing where it's not only a biopic, but it is an actual full-fledged musical. And I was like, that's kind of cool.
I think it was a smart play. Just to
was.
bring up the point that you were saying about how they became kind of monotonous.
Yeah, definitely.
And it was refreshing to see how different it was.
Well, these people listening and watching us already know how we feel about Elton John.
Right.
So it's kind of
Big
like,
fan,
I was a
but-
sucker as it was.
Yeah.
You know, they played the trailer for that when I went to see Bohemian Rhapsody. And I was like, when's this shit coming out? I want
Right.
to see this.
Exactly. And he, the lead guy.
Taron Egerton.
Yes.
Egerton?
Is it Edgerton or Egerton?
Yeah.
One of the two. I don't know. But he's like, he plays and sings.
He did everything.
He did everything.
Yeah.
So I always give more respect to that.
1,000%.
And he went above and beyond, because you can hear, without getting too nerdy in it, but like when he sang, he really picked up on like all the little inflections and
All
the
the nuances.
dictations that
Yeah,
like Elton
yeah.
John would sing, and I'm like, that's wild.
Well, you know they do a good job when you're watching the film and you don't think it's that actor anymore, and you think it's just that character.
Yeah.
That's always crazy to me. And then it's like you look at a side-by-side comparison, like they don't really look that similar, but you believed it, and they did their job.
He sold it.
Which is cool, you know, that you give more props and respect for someone who sings and plays in a film like that. 'Cause it's so funny modern day how that's like a rarity now.
Yeah.
Because you look at like films back in the day, every actor had to sing, you had to dance, and you had to act, and you had to
Do it
act
all.
well, because
Yeah.
if you did too many takes and you wasted film, they fired you.
Right.
That's like, you know, James Cagney, who was in all the gangster films. He also was an incredible singer and a great dancer. Like that's like a huge deal. Like
It's funny.
That's how it was back then. And now it's just like the extent of it you get normally is, oh yeah, this actor's gonna be in something. He strums a little bit of guitar. Wow, what a cool player. And it's like, what?
It's amazing.
Everyone strums a little bit of guitar,
Yeah.
for God's sake. My mom strums a little bit of guitar
Right.
if I make her. You know?
Yeah.
So that's like, I mean, you do have again your more accomplished guys. Like I always think of Steve Martin. Like obviously he's a great comedian and great actor, but he's a phenomenal banjo player. Like he played with Kermit the Frog, and like,
I mean, come on.
Kermit's no slouch, dude.
No.
Like Kermit wouldn't play with him.
You can
if he-
shred.
Yeah, dude. Like come on.
Shred.
Webbed fingers, I think, have something to do
Yeah.
with that. I don't know. But it is very, very that's a great point, you know, to kind of bring up. Yeah, look at these people went the extra mile for this part, and that's dedication. Because
A lot of extra steps.
like we always say, music's a language. So you have to learn a whole new language that you're unfamiliar with for a role, and you have to convincingly like show that or
Yeah.
portray that. Holy shit! But I will say, if we're talking about authenticity in film, and this kind of crosses a
Oh boy.
this is the musical realm, but it's also the animation realm. The one that blew my mind, because you sent me a video of one of the animatics of it, was Disney and Pixar's Coco. that blew my on the record blew my fucking balls off when I saw that. Because
They're gone?
You haven't noticed my voice is a little higher and my pants are tighter?
Well,
I have all this room.
Wow.
Yeah. Just like gone, like in the theater instantaneously. Just gone. All over the poor guy in front of me. He's like, "Is this balls?" And I was like, "You bet."
I didn't order these.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Is this balls?
That's for your balls.
Thanks, buddy. They actually, when the musicians who played the guitar parts for that, all the fingerstyle kind of flamenco stuff, they filmed them from multiple angles and they animated it. And when you see close-ups of that, that's really what is being played. That was awesome. Like I had never seen that before. With
when I
animation.
found that, and I got so excited because I'm like, that is the extra mile.
That's what it is.
Like, it's that little detail that makes everything. And when we watch the movie again, or for the first time knowing that, it changes it. Yeah. And you can see them like zoom in, like real close shot of them playing on their
everything,
hand. Because they're like, "Yup, we did that. We added it."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the extent of people playing music in animation was always, I always just think of Bugs Bunny playing the piano in one of those shots, or Tom and Jerry or whoever, and it's like, yeah, this isn't accurate.
Right.
It looks cool and there's a lot of movement, but that's not what he's really playing.
Yeah.
You know? So, a perfect practical use of that film, one of my students wanted to learn one of the songs from it. And we had a book accompaniment, and I was listening to it, and I was like, I don't know what this voicing is he's doing. It's Remember Me is the song?
Yes.
That's an awesome song. That is a goddamn well-written song. And I was like, I can't figure this out. It's not written properly in the book because it was written for like young guitar, like beginner. Like, this isn't going to sound like, it was very changed.
Yeah.
So we pulled up a clip of it, and I watched his hand play it, and I was like, that's the chord.
That's crazy.
And that's what I did, and it was true. And that's what it was, and it was awesome. And I was like, holy shit, like they did their homework.
They
like,
really did.
Unapologetically. And that sold it for me. That was so good, because when I'm watching these goddamn movies, I'm just like, great, here's a close-up of, what's his face in Whiplash doing something. Clearly this is an overdub. This is, I mean, what's his face in
Miles
Teller.
Yeah.
He does play. He is a drummer. Sure. He can play. I've seen him play. He's got chops. He's a good player.
He's fine.
He does like a lot of rock stuff. But having him go into a jazz situation like that, and it's like...
And like really hard jazz parts.
That's not like lazy shit at all.
They're big pieces.
And it's like him playing this like without like traditional grip.
Dude, I
it's
cringe
like,
with the technique.
How would you? Yeah, I'm just watching this. I'm like, this wouldn't even make sense to play this, because his hand, how his grip is, he would never be able to do this. Like, and a lot of it was him playing, but a lot of it was overdubbed.
Yeah.
So I know you probably had a heart attack watching that film.
Yeah. Brought back some bad memories, but
I mean, I love that film.
It's really good. Actually,
I like that film for J.K. Simmons, because the dude is fantastic. But like,
and I think it gives people an idea of like, that's how it is at some places.
Oh God, I know.
Like that is not fiction.
No,
like,
I mean, thankfully, I was blessed with awesome band directors and things like that. You more so were not.
Yeah, it's real.
I'm happy you still play to this day.
Yeah, but I tried forever to find out who was actually playing the drums on most of that.
I'm not sure.
I couldn't find it. I don't know why. I mean, I guess some things are a little weird if they're union. And with names being displayed and I don't know. But it's a shame because I'm like,
dude's a cooking player.
The last track, Caravan, which is very popular. Yeah.
Very good tune.
And I'm like, this guy can play. And I'm like searching the web trying to find it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's a shame this guy's not getting really any credit. But I just wanted to go back to Coco for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to for other people might be like, well, of course you're a musician, you would want to see the authenticity, but for me it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like why would they need to do that extra detail? Why couldn't they just have it, be whatever?
Because Pixar and Disney are perfectionists. They don't half-ass anything.
Right.
I mean,
I agree with you. I'm just saying
to watch
yeah.
To watch a skeleton play the guitar is great. I think that's something I've always wanted to see in my life. Yeah, Mr. Winston back there, all my skeletons.
Yeah, they all play.
It's to sell it, because Disney doesn't they don't fuck around. I mean, that's really what it is. It's to them, that's not the little detail. To them, that's the story. That is the film. And, you know, again, it's not a band in the background. That's the main character, and it's got to be dead on.
Right.
And I think that's so important. And that just shows where it's like they're not so much going the extra mile. It's that's their piece. That's how they do it. It's
And I
you
think
go
it
big or go home.
Yeah, and I think it adds a lot to it.
Oh,
I
my
mean,
God,
because well, that scene where you see him playing, it's like that's the movie.
Yeah. That's the character.
It's really what it is.
Yeah.
So of course you're gonna have to, do the best you can and perfect that because that's really the underlying tone throughout the whole film.
Yeah.
So you can't really just breeze over it.
No,
And like you
yeah.
said, it's Disney and it's Pixar, right? And it's
they go big or go home. Honestly.
I expect
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Like we were watching, my girlfriend and I were watching the Jamie Lee Curtis, Lindsay Lohan Freaky Friday the other day on Disney Plus, and that was not an advertisement for everyone, because I was going through all the Lindsay Lohan movies, so it was like The Parent Trap and that, and Herbie the Love Bug or whatever one she was in. I'm a boring person.
You need hope.
I do. But obviously, Lindsay Lohan plays guitar in that movie in a band, and then at the end, she switches bodies with Jamie Lee Curtis, and Jamie Lee Curtis has to play on stage. And, I'm like, my girlfriend leans into me, and she's like, is she really playing? I was like, no. But she sold it really goddamn good.
Yeah.
Like, Jamie Lee Curtis was fucking into it. I was like, look at her go.
People
All
are
right.
buying it.
With stuff like that, I was like, wow, she's really, really doing it. But for us, when we saw Coco, because I'm an asshole like that, in every movie I'll just lean in and I'll be like, he's not really playing.
Yeah.
And she's just like, all right, whatever. Because, that's not for her a focal point. I think it's for you and I or musicians. It is, because it's like, that's what we do. It's, if you're a native Spanish speaker and you hear someone speaking Spanish, you understand it.
That's a really good comparison.
For
yeah.
you and I who play music and write music and arrange music and understand music, we hear someone doing it or see someone doing it, we pick up on it. That's
Right.
how it is. That's just another reason why music is a language. So when I was watching Coco, I was like, this is phenomenal. And I leaned in, I was like, he's really playing that. And it's a cartoon.
Yeah,
it's an animated cartoon, and that's the dude who's really playing
It's
it.
so good. And the whoever wrote that song, the writer,
I don't remember who the composer was.
I mean,
That's that whole,
they knocked it out of the park.
yeah, that's a really good one.
I didn't even expect to get to that.
No, I also cried at that part because it was very sad at the very
it's
end.
so the
But
colors
all the
and everything is it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Which that was I was just talking about rewatching that because I hadn't seen it
Yeah,
in a while.
I'm due.
Yeah, we've already passed Day of the Dead because it was November 2nd. But yeah, that's, if any of you people listening have not watched that movie, it's goddamn, it's just so wholesome.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Which, I mean, we're going to do a whole podcast on Disney.
Yeah, we just mentioned that.
We have to, because that is, as music goes, that's a monster of itself. Like, to have, the idea of we're going to have a musical, but it's animated. That's a huge, huge deal, because that's never been done before. And then the whole idea of just old cartoons where every episode was scored. Like, no one thinks about that when you watch Tom and Jerry or you watch any of the old Looney Tunes. Those were all scored. That's why Looney Tunes is spelled Tunes.
Oh, yeah.
Which no one remembers it's spelled that way.
Right.
Because it was the music. It was the score. Someone scored an entire animated episode every time.
A lot of them had like no dialogue.
Yeah. Well,
It's just
Wile E. Coyote was my favorite. So most of those didn't have dialogue,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
was great. But it's very, very interesting when you kind of get in that realm, especially with just Disney or any of that stuff. Also, it's just worth noting any of the Pixar ones always have great music and great scoring.
Yes, they do.
Fun fact, too, Toy Story is one of the only few films in existence, I think there's like 7, that have a 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Really?
So it's like the perfect movie. I love that film. That is a goddamn good film. I was 5 when that came out, which is also bananas to think about.
I know. We kind of we're in that age bracket where we kind of follow the Andy story.
That's why that movie hit so much harder.
Yeah.
I remember because I saw that in the third one in theaters when he's like handing all his toys away and he's like, Woody, you're my favorite deputy. I fucking cried. And my girlfriend were both in tears. And then there's a bunch of kids who didn't care. And I was like, well, you don't understand it. You didn't grow up with it.
Yeah.
You little shit, you're a poser. Like, pushed him down, took his Raisinets. Then he landed on that sticky movie theater floor, and it's probably still there. But it's amazing how at least scoring for those kind of films look at the score as a character. And that kind of brings it full circle back to John Williams, what we started with, where it's the score is the character. And I think it's such an important thing. So I think whether we're looking at, how a film is scored itself, whether it's the composition of it, whether it's a musical, because we didn't even touch musicals or soundtracks, because soundtracks in film are another huge thing, because now it's songs that are already written. How do they work together? How do they tell the story?
True. Piece them together, yeah.
Which is insane. And then the portrayal of music in film. And I love it because movies and music are so tightly knit. And a lot of people don't ever think about that. But it's like how Foley is such a big deal with film and sound effects. You don't realize almost everything, every sound effect you hear is put back in. It's not naturally happening.
Yeah.
It's put back in. Someone is an artist doing that. And in that same way where they're creating this kind of dimension to it, and they're creating this experience, that's how music is in film, whether it's a character in the term of score, or it's a character because it's the focal point, because it's about music. And I don't know, I feel like a lot of people overlook that, and that kind of bugs me, because it's the whole art kind of thing. But that's just me. I don't know.
No, I agree with you 100%.
So in closing for you, or for us in general, as far as the use of music in film goes, to you, what would you think the most important part is, or the important reason of it working so well? I know that got unnecessarily deep, and we were literally just talking about my balls exploding on some guy in front of me in the movie theater.
That's why the movie theater floor's sticky.
Yeah, it's probably that poor kid. Oh, please! I hear police sirens. I can't say things.
Yeah, they're coming right now.
Please stop.
They're at the front door. I mean, for me, like you said, they work hand in hand, and I think the music amplifies what you're trying to portray on the screen.
I like that. I like that very much.
And anyway, whether you actually have music or you take the music out, it helps bring about whatever scene you're portraying at the time. Without it, I don't think you can really get a lot of the point across. It's very difficult. You'd have to be way more creative.
See, that's a really good point that you have, because it furthers the plot, and no one ever thinks about it like that. It's not just background music. It's not just the royalty-free track someone's dropping in there. This was written to go along with what's happening, like a lot of the old cartoons.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
And it's, I think people don't realize, or they take it for granted when they're watching these, what the impact that the music has. If you strip that away, well, now watch it. You still like it?
Yeah.
Still the same? Or put music that's completely inappropriate, unrelated, and see if it works. Yeah.
I want that. I want like
Exactly.
yakety sax in there. But that's a great point, because the whole reason they started putting music in film was because movies were silent. That's what they did. When you have the old silent picture shows and people would play piano, a piece that was written to go with the music, and it was timed specifically, and they had someone conducting, and that's what it was. And then they started to go in orchestral, and then they had ways to record music, and then that changed everything.
Right.
So that's literally, your point has been done since the beginning of film, for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some movies that were completely silent, and then years later they'd put a score in for re-releases, but it was always, you went to a theater and there was a dude playing piano, or a guy, or a small orchestra, or a pit band, or something like that to go with it. And it's like, that's crazy to think that, they put that there to portray what was happening on the screen, to create
Change the
emotion.
game. Yeah.
Because if it was completely silent, that'd be just awkward.
Yeah, and
Then,
very
you'd
awkward.
hear a big old, and they'd be like, this dude's balls explode behind me? Yeah, that's
They're on my shoulder.
disgusting.
What about you?
What, my balls?
Yes.
Specifically?
Where are they now? Yeah.
Probably on the back of that guy's neck.
He saved them.
Still there. The importance of music and film for me.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's an important means of progression, where I mean, now this isn't with all films or film doesn't have to be with any film, honestly. But for me, I think score, it's the idea of that emotion that you're seeing on the screen, and it's progressing it, whether it be to a resolution, whether it be to a climax of an act, whether it be, just moving from act to act in general. Music like that is a conveyor belt. It's literally carrying you along, and it's making it not stagnant.
Yeah.
And that's such an important thing in the art of film or visual medium like that. I mean, we didn't even talk about scoring for television, because that's a completely different medium.
That's really a good point. Yeah. It's another animal.
Yeah, I mean, because that's it's such a smaller kind of canvas now that you're recording on and writing for. Like we always talk about The Mandalorian and how awesome of a score that is, or
amazing.
Your Daredevils or anything like that. It's now you have a smaller amount of time to progress someone through, but you still have to do it. It still has to move. And I think that's the, if it ain't moving, it ain't grooving. That's the rule.
Yeah.
And I'd say with that,
that's a perfect way to end.
I want to thank everybody watching or listening for beating off with us on the Drop the Beat podcast for this week. Please check out charleslaurita.com for all the stuff that we got going on. We have our Patreon on there if you want to have your name at the end of our videos that we're doing to be one of our patrons. I think that would be super cool. We have our merch shop is now open. We have Drop the Beat podcast shirts.
Some good stuff on there.
We got some goddamn good stuff. All the proceeds from that will be going to new tea bags, so we don't have to keep using K-cups like a bunch of yuppies. But
save the environment.
Yeah, I was gonna say, God, sea turtles and baby seals are gonna probably be horrified that we're using these.
One last sip of the zinger here.
Let's zing this bitch, and this zing will be zung.
Yep.
Oh, baby. Got goosebumps. It stings.
It sings.
Oh, it stings and it zings. Wow. Well, I'm going to go call my doctor, but my name is Charles Laurita.
And I'm Will Sarver.
And we'll catch you guys next time.
Cheers.
See ya.